You're listening to the Belmar Bites podcast, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. Hey, Matt, welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to be back.
I guess
Good
I
to be
get to see
back.
a lot throughout the day on a platform similar to this, but it's good to have you back on the pod and good to be doing another one of these.
Absolutely.
How's your day going?
It's been going well. Yeah, it's one of those days where you guys bounce from meeting to meeting, which I'm certain you've got a handful of those. But you know what? There's been some really good conversations today. It's funny. I was uh, I was on a call with a executive director of a health and human service organization a few days back, and I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And she said, uh, "It's going fantastic." And I said, "Oh, I love that energy." And she said, "I try not to use the word busy when I reply to people because that is such a cop out. It's such a everybody says, 'Oh, how's it going?' Oh, it's been busy." So I said, "You know what? You know what, Christina? I'm going to also take away the vocab of busy from my vernacular here. So if you have, Scott, you got to call me out. If I ever say, 'Oh, it's been busy,' just whack me over the head right there because that's not very descriptive. But
There you
how's
go.
your day been, Scott?
It's been productive. It's
There
been
you go.
productive. Yeah. Got up earlier than I normally do. I just had a lot to get off the list today. And so, yeah, it's been one of these days where it's just been this like steady flow of things moving in the right direction. And I
Yeah.
am more than half done the day. And feel like I'm like 80 to 90% of what I set out to do has already been done. So it's just like, it's all downhill from here. It's going to be awesome. So, well, hey, good to talk about productivity and, as Salesforce partners, we've got it's just this ever changing landscape. And I think it's been the reality over the last 15 years. It's constantly moving. And if anything, it just feels like it's accelerating even more. So we are in the first, I guess, quarter of the Salesforce fiscal year. And they have just recently wrapped up their kickoff and their QBRs and their planning and despite all the planning, it seems like they've still even got more planning they want to do because all the uh, all the sales leaders that I'm talking to just seem to just constantly
Yeah.
be focused on planning. And so I think it's just a great sort of launching off point, just talking about some of the changes that we're seeing within Salesforce, sort of what's happening on the ground in terms of their products, what customers are saying. And I mean, we can probably get into this in this episode. I was
Sure.
traveling this week and had some good conversations with customers. But I know you've been part of uh, some of the kickoffs, and you've been listening in and joining in on kind of what's happening, sort of behind the scenes at Salesforce. So, what kind of nuggets have you taken away from sort of how they're starting their year?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different sound bites that I've heard, and some of the I know you and I talk a lot about AI and how that materializes itself in kickoffs and in conversations and initiating new conversations as well. I'll tell you one soundbite that I heard the other day that I'm starting to see this more and more. When executive directors or CEOs are evaluating technology now in these conversations, they're starting to stop referring to CRM as just the system of record. They're starting to refer to it now as like how do we generate insights, system of action. So I'm starting to uh, see less and less people viewing it just as a database or as a storing of information of like how do we actually gain value out of that. And I mean, prime example, you've heard the phrase "do more with less"
Yep.
as well. I'm starting to actually see that in action now with the different organizations that I'm talking to. Is like how do we get more out of this? How do we generate more out of this? So that's kind of a trend or shift that I'm starting to see in the conversations. But what about yourself?
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. I mean, on a recent podcast, you and I discussed just sort of what are our predictions, what do we think is going to happen as it pertains to just the ongoing sort of forward momentum of AI, and how does that impact sort of our world? How does that impact white collar work? uh, and or
Yeah.
knowledge. Maybe I think the phrase we used was knowledge work. Uh, and I've got a theory, which is like I actually don't think it's going to. I don't think we're going to see huge displacement in knowledge workers, even though we do see it in some of the tech companies. They're letting go people, but I mean, I guess just surveying my friends and colleagues, I'm not seeing anybody who's actually letting go of people or anybody who's been let go, directly because of AI. So yeah, I think it's a leveling up, and to your point, I'm hearing the same thing. Maybe it's just a good time to talk about a recent trip that I took to Toronto. I went to see some customers and just spend time with the leaders in within the organizations that we work. And I mean, it was amazing. I actually posted about this yesterday on LinkedIn. Just um, I'll kind of just read a couple of snippets from that. But they're getting massive value from Salesforce, specifically as the investment they're making in the technology. They're getting massive value when it's combined with working with a partner like us. They're looking to enable their teams to do more with less. They don't wanna hire, so, I mean, that's pretty clear. I'm hearing they don't wanna hire any more people, but they need to do more, and, but at the same time, they don't wanna let go of people. So, I was with one particular client that, I was meeting with their senior leadership team, less their CEO, and I heard that, this particular CEO in the organization just like has like got a really clear mandate. We are not letting anybody go. We are going to leverage technology to do more with the team we have, and we're just gonna,
Mhm.
we're gonna 1x, 2x, 3x what we're doing already with the same people, uh, but doing it because they're tech enabled and becoming more tech enabled. So tech enablement as it at least pertains to Salesforce, we certainly are seeing this now
Mhm.
with Agentforce, and then I think for me, just this, I'll define it. Kind of this week has been this switch that's flipped in my mind. I've known it's coming, but I'm actually seeing it now. Where
Yeah.
and, we go back in history, you know, before Salesforce and before the cloud, it was well, I mean, maybe not before the cloud, but as Salesforce came out and they were evangelizing cloud computing, it took a number of years before that switch finally flipped, and then you started just seeing people. It was just part of their vernacular, their business vernacular, and I'm now seeing this specifically with AI and maybe more specifically with Agentforce. So it's actually really exciting to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that over time, you see these kind of milestone markers and it makes its way into conversation. It's kind of like a seed being planted. It
Yeah.
makes its way into conversation. Then as people kind of get comfortable with that idea, then it becomes okay, well, that's just normal. And then it's like, okay, now where can we scale expectations? And I know that you were on site in Toronto this week. I visited one of our clients this week in Vancouver, actually, and um, similar types of sentiment. And the thing that came up so often is this person wears so many hats. This person wears so many hats, and I think that's just the reality, and the expectation is going up. And we talk about doing more with less. I mean, even for our organization, I look at back 3 to 5 years ago, and it used to be, well, how many people do we have? The amount of people that you have doesn't really matter if you're not really scaling
Yeah.
beyond from a be it revenue standpoint or other, or you're losing money while you're doing that. Like it ends up being a vanity metric. So I think
Yeah.
we're starting
Yeah.
to see that, or I'm starting to see that with nonprofit organizations is okay, well, let's not hire anybody else, but how do we diversify our revenue channels? How do we continue to stabilize the organization? How do we make sure that we're going to be here to serve even more people next year? So I think this phrase, and you've heard this probably often, of I just wear a lot of hats. I think that's just going to be table stakes on the go forward. So it's like, how do we create productivity for an individual? How do we take away things that don't need to be, so they can be allowed to wear a lot of hats, but they don't necessarily have that same kind of context switch, lack of efficiency that happens with wearing. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just an observation that I had when I went on site this week. and heard that as well. The expectations, the high watermark has gone up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I totally agree, and I heard similar things, with customers this week, and, the question that they're asking me is, like, how do we deal with this? How do we we've got this technology, but we just now need to get more out of it. And it's kind of interesting. Salesforce is often out in front of their customers, and we've been certainly hearing this from the AE community at Salesforce for many years. It's just like, how do we unlock more value with the tools that a customer is already paying for? So, Salesforce, you buy a license, we'll just call it, of their nonprofit cloud, and you can build applications then on top of that license that are in addition to the core capabilities that come with that license. And that's one way to get more value. But now with Agentforce, we're like, it's just really exciting to see sort of what's happening. And I know you and I were joking about this earlier, uh, outside of this conversation, but I mean, I myself am just playing with AI tools more so just to learn. And a
Mm.
friend of mine actually challenged me. He said he's like, every single day, like Monday to Friday, every single day, he is going to build just like a little, I'll call it a micro app, as somebody called it, but just a little micro app,
Mhm.
something to just make my life easier. Not a developer, no background really in development, but has been in technology his whole life. And so he's using, I think in the example he gave me, he's using Lovable to just build, little widgets, little apps that he runs on his phone. And it's the point is, he just wants to be learning, he wants to be curious, he wants to be creative, and uh, not let this moment pass him by. And so, I think of this in the context of our customers, and how we can help them with that. I mean, you can log into a tool like Lovable or Replit or any of the, like, I guess, sort of easy ones to use and build applications, but you're not really going to build, at least for most of our customers, not going to build business applications in these tools that help them in Salesforce. So, that's where I think we've got a role to play, is helping these orgs uh, build agents, do workshops, help them to just get started, get rolling. And once you get going with these things, it's like the ideas just start to flow. And so, yeah, I don't know about you. How about you? Are you building tools? Have you got time to build tools right now, or what?
It
What's
it's
what do
funny,
you?
and it's funny that you bring that up, and I would love to know what apps that you've spun up here, Scott. But I'll give you an example of an app that I've spun up. This one was using Replit, the one that you referenced, and I wouldn't say that I'm a developer. I would say I have understanding of software development. So just putting that out there. But I had built just tinkering around. I like to golf. You know that I like to golf.
Yeah.
I built this social platform that allows people to say, "Are you in or are you out?" Because oftentimes when you're golfing, uh, the hardest part is trying to get flaky people or non-committed people to actually come to your tee time so that you have four, because you got to make sure you fill the foursome. So I'd spun up this web app that um, puts the course name, the tee time, and if somebody is in or out, and it's on a first come, first served basis. So, um, is it in full production? No, I've got a couple people kind of testing it out. And I think then, which kind of relates to my next point, um, then it's going to be about adoption as well. But here, I'll tell you what I'm starting to hear as well in conversations is whenever there's something as exciting as be it AI or the ability to build agents or the ability to spin up apps, I think from a governance standpoint, I think that organizations have a really, really big, exciting opportunity, but also if unintended to potential risk as well on the go forward is
Yeah.
how do I get control of this? How do I stop? And you've probably heard the phrase shadow IT or rogue IT, like people just
Yep.
going off and doing things totally different way. I think that's going to be the next big challenge is how do we put parameters to keep people excited and engaged, but also put some clear definition of what is possible and what you should be doing and not be doing. And I'll describe it this way. I heard from one of our clients this week that said they described this as a monster, but in a good way. Like it can turn into a big snowball because everybody wants to pile in and they've got great ideas, super engaged. Now, how do we put those controls in place as well? So, long-winded
Yeah,
answer, but
interesting.
what types of apps have you spun up here, Scott?
Well, the one that, I worked on most recently was, uh, tr measuring people that are visiting our website. So we're doing, all we can to try to understand when prospective customers are interacting with our brand, through socials, through our website, through I guess other platforms. And so there's a ton of tools out there that already do this, but I was more just really interested in figuring out how to connect customers that are visiting our website to see if they exist in our Salesforce org, and if we can connect them to that. So uh, I was playing around with a couple of tools that allow you to measure who's visiting, how long they were on the site, what they were looking at. In many cases, it identifies them as an individual through their LinkedIn profile or some contact biometrics the tool can capture. But it doesn't go the distance. It doesn't actually plug into Salesforce. So, uh, yeah, just using in the example in this particular example, I was just using Grok to help me. I'm not a developer, but I presented the problems what I'm trying to solve, and it helped me navigate through spinning up the right tools and building the essentially the front end dashboard that we would look at to see who's hitting our site. And it's very rudimentary. It needs some work, but it's interesting. And so, I think of our customers, and in some cases they're very tech enabled. They've got an IT team internally, and I'm sure all of these IT teams are certainly thinking about their value in the organization, and they're presenting AI uh, sort of ideas. One of the things that's so important is you brought up security.
Mhm.
You brought up kind of the like which system owns the data? Is it Salesforce? Is it their accounting system? Is their ERP system? And so, the thing we see with Salesforce is they're leading in this category, specifically with their Agentforce product. And so, my messaging to our customers is like, let's like, you can go off and you can build applications, and that's fun, and it's exciting. And there's probably some real value in that. But if you're wanting to enable your teams to do more, I'll give you a very specific example. One that I talked with a CEO about this week. So if you've got a team of, say, 15 to 20 fundraisers, the latest Agentforce product that Salesforce has released, the particular licensing, which includes Agentforce, has agents built in, and it has a fundraising agent that can assist. And so, I'm explaining it to the CEO this way. It's not going to replace people, but it's going to enable them to do more. And let's just be very conservative. Say it allows them to do 10% more of what they're doing today. If you've got 20 people, I mean that works out to, you're getting two extra the equivalent of 2 extra people across the year. So now you've got 22 people.
Yeah.
Imagine you can get that to 20%, 30%. So, over time as their maturity grows, with these tools, as the product matures, I mean, I think we're gonna be able to see these organizations who have got 10, 20 fundraisers, operate as though they've got a team of 100.
Yeah.
And so, in this individual's mind, this huge light bulb went on, and it's exciting. We're now in a pretty cool conversation with them about what is possible, and it's not like future looking. This is today. Like, we can do this stuff today. So, uh,
Mhm. I appreciate you bringing that up because I think it's helpful also to talk about when we talk about productivity. I think, let's call it 3, 4 years ago, there was lots of conversation about burnout as well. And I want to share with you my kind of perspective on how this reduces burnout and why the scale up of productivity actually is beneficial from an individual standpoint. So yes, the output goals, the expectations are going to rise. Like that's expected. You should be able to do more with less. But historically, to do more with less if you use a dial analogy and you dial things up, usually your effort increases, your own effort increases, and that's usually coming out of time. Time is your effort,
Yeah.
and it's just squeezing you dry, like you are getting super burnt out. But the nice part about this is if you have one person that does wear those multiple hats, they're able to offload some of the things that just suck their time and take their effort that are not necessary. And you can continue to scale up and dial these agents up in this case without burning somebody out. And I think that's the really exciting part is you can expect these higher levels of output and expectation of, okay, you have a $2 million fundraising portfolio now instead of a $1.5 million portfolio. You can increase that while giving them tools to succeed without burning them out
Yeah.
compared to the dynamic before. And I think also the last piece is by taking away those kind of let's just call them mundane tasks or things that are very repeatable that should be automated and or done through an
Yeah.
agent.
Yeah. Yeah.
By taking those things off the plate of this individual, not only are you not placing that burnout pressure on them, you're allowing them to do the things that they enjoy more likely, the creative aspects, the relationship aspects, the things that allow them, I would argue, are higher value anyways, be it as a fundraiser. And the example that you gave earlier is all you had to do was feed in certain prompts to spin out these apps. You were still able to be creative. You were still able to present problem statements. But the nuance of understanding coding syntax and the nuance of all of those different things, like you didn't even need to think about that stuff.
Yeah.
So
That's just table stakes now. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I just think that is something else that needs to be talked about too. Is it doesn't the expectations rise, but the effort and time and the burnout propensity doesn't scale proportionally to that because you're taking away the stuff that people don't like to be doing anyways,
Right.
or
Right.
things that are not productive. So what do you think of that?
Yeah. No, for
Pers-
sure. I think that's you're bang on with that. I mean, I'll give you like a very pointed example from another conversation I had this week. It was, we have, we have fundraisers on our team. They are focused mostly on our, uh, their largest donors. They're working to coordinate events, and they're, like they're very busy with a small number of large donors. And, the comment was, we raise significant dollars every year, from people that are giving, under $1,000, but we just don't touch these people, short of like sending them email and maybe engaging through social platforms. But we started spitballing this idea of, imagine an agent that is really just monitoring the interaction at scale across these thousands of donors that are, in aggregate, very, very valuable to the organization. But at the amount they're giving, there's just not an it just doesn't work to have an individual be, engaging with them
Yeah.
on a regular basis. So we started working through this kind of thought experiment, and this individual's like, okay, like we absolutely have got to do this. Like this is just an absolute no brainer. And the exciting thing is this is now available. Like this,
Yeah.
we can do this. So I guess for anybody who is listening to this that is interested in this, I mean, there are some fundamental things that have got to be put in place. You've got to be using Salesforce. You've got to have your data in reasonably great shape. But we've got a solution. If your data is not in great shape, we can help you to get that in good shape. And then once your data is ready, then I mean you can just start deploying agents against this, and they're going to be essentially acting on your behalf as sort of digital workers who are, taking things off of the plates of others, and or just doing things that aren't getting done today because there's just not enough bandwidth in the week to do it.
Yeah, I think the premise as an implementation partner, the premise remains the same, or the approach remains the same. Um, Instead of trying to tackle and boil the ocean here, like start small, deploy one agent,
Yeah.
and then figure out what the ROI there is and scale it. Because once it's in, you're able to kind of see that impact, that daily impact as well. And I appreciate that you brought up data because I think that these two, data and AI, go hand in hand. And I'll leave you with something that I don't know. I think it was in a conversation this week, but I'll share it here. The companies and organizations that win with AI won't be the ones with the best technology. They'll be the ones with the best data. So You've heard garbage in, garbage out, and all of this. So I think data and AI, they need to go hand in hand here because the insights and the training information that it's to produce those actions, it needs to be off of credible data. So um, I'm glad you brought that up because that I think I'd heard from one of the CEOs this week that I was chatting with that that is it's a very real perspective on this, and that you can't just slap a tool on and it's going to solve everything. You got to have a really rich, enriched, and quality data layer sitting below
Yeah.
it as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, this has been a good conversation. I think we should wrap on that. So, Salesforce agents, get your data ready because the agents are ready to help you, and Belmar's happy to get involved and help you figure all of this out. So, Matt, thanks for doing this.
Thanks,
Looking
Scott.
forward to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Take
All
care.
right. This has been another episode of Belmar Bites, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or on our website at belmarcloud.com.